In fact, what's most people are not going to see. Some people bring pictures of their families and they lay them out in their little locker space, or they create this little area that's just for them. Stuffed animals I've even seen. For me, it's cute, right? I smile and I'm like, that's adorable. Maybe it's their son or their daughter. But those little superstitions I can understand. But for me, I'm just like, I just go with the flow. And that's just, I think, my personality too. But he has a very specific warm-up that he does, and I don't mess with that. But part of that is the first 3 minutes we run, and then we do some dynamic stretching for another few minutes, and then he lets us go and do our thing. People warned me about like his warm-up because it's intense, right? And like, 24, 25, I can do this. And they must not be fit, right? Wrong. We get in the warm-up and he is doing an HIT run for like 3 minutes up and down the sideline. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's not even, it doesn't even look like it's phasing him. And I'm sitting there like huffing and puffing almost. And now I'm thinking, am I out of shape? What's happening here? I always acknowledge what they say. I'm like, I hear you and thank you. I'll let the referee know, and you just do with that what you will. They just want to be heard and they want to feel like you're doing something about it. And we do too, right? It's going to help the game. We're going to do it. But it's an input to our game management. And sometimes it's valuable and sometimes it's just useful, but not valuable in the moment. It's not very professional behavior. So we just remind them of that sometimes. It actually starts before the game. If you're new to the team, you haven't seen the team, you just watch during warm-ups, you watch the players, you watch the technical staff. You can see those technical staff or those trainers that are just on them. You know what you're up against. So you are formulating how you're going to respond to that.
Do us a quick favor, guys. Hit the follow, subscribe button. Share this with someone who would benefit from it. And help us grow, as the more we grow, the better the episodes we'll get. Thanks, guys, for helping us. And let's get into the episode. Welcome back to this episode of the SCULPTED podcast. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by Logan Brown. Now, Logan has a pretty interesting background and one that we actually haven't had before on the SCULPTED podcast, which is really cool for us. So I'm really, really excited to speak with Logan today. So Logan, if you could give a quick introduction to who you are and what you do to our viewers, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Logan Brown. I live in New Jersey, just south of New York City. I am a FIFA assistant referee and have been so since about 2020, right before COVID. I've been refereeing professionally this is coming up on my 9th season in Major League Soccer. So it's pretty good, pretty exciting. Also outside of soccer, I work for Ernst & Young, also known as EY. I work in technology, specifically helping end user adoption for new technology that's released at the firm. So it's pretty exciting. I get to work with some really cool new applications and products, some that the public doesn't get to see yet, but also I get to interact with a bunch of really, really awesome people during the day. And then at night, I'm a soccer referee.
Awesome. And it's interesting to see that maybe it's at like a Premier League level, quite potentially. I'm not too sure. Maybe you can help me with this even. But it's interesting to see that you have two jobs, whereas for footballers, most of the time at the professional level, they'll just be having one job. Is that common for most refs to have two jobs?
It depends on where you live, but I would say in a general sense, yes. Once you get to the FIFA international level, it really does depend on where you live as far as what your goals are financially, of course. But honestly, if you talk to any top level official, we do it because we love the game. So usually most people do have another job because it is performance-based, but also too, you reach a certain age where your body just can't keep up. So to have a separate career, I think is really important. And that's for me why I also continue to pursue the business side as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because as a athlete yourself, your career is also limited. And also, I don't think many people give refs much credit for being athletes, but I've got a friend who is a ref and he has to be as fit as the players.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's the exact same with you. If not, you have to be even fitter than some players, because I think you'd probably be fitter than the defender, possibly.
Yeah, sometimes, right? Sometimes, and then there's sometimes where you're working in, let's say, Toluca, like I was 2 weeks ago. You're almost 10,000 feet above sea level. So yeah, you're over almost 3,000 meters, which is crazy.
Yeah, and that's not an easy one. But
No.
Let's get straight into the quick fire question. So, who is your favorite football team?
I had to think about this one. It's actually Chelsea. I've liked them since I was younger. when Drogba used to play for them. He was just a fun player to watch as a kid. So growing up, I would say it was Chelsea.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. That was probably also mine, to be fair. But now I don't really associate with the football team. If anyone who watches this podcast regularly would know, they see me wearing like a Tottenham Hotspur kit one day, and then like the most random kit the next day. So yeah, I wouldn't say I have a favorite team at the moment, but I do like Chelsea. What is your favorite food?
Sushi.
Okay, interesting. Now, do you have a favorite player of all time?
Oof. That's difficult. I wouldn't say I have a favorite player because I just enjoyed watching the game. You know, growing up during my era, I'm 33, so growing up it was David Beckham at the time. He was really fun to watch. Obviously, Drogba was there as well, Wayne Rooney. And having the opportunity to actually meet all three of them at some point in my referee career was pretty cool. But at that point, you know, they've stopped playing for a while. So I would say those are the three players that kind of come to mind. Obviously, Messi in recent times, he's spectacular to watch, but he's also a fantastic player. Obviously winning the World Cup last year. But, you know, I want to say, you know, for the record, I don't really care about the players in terms of like idolizing them and watching them in that regard. You know, as a referee, we just want it to be fair. Obviously, we have the best seats in the entire house to watch some of these performers, but, you know, you're there to do a job. So, you know, you really don't even think about the star factor, you know? You recognize that they're an important player, but there's 22 players out there and you have to treat them all the same. So.
Yeah, it's a good perspective, 100%. Now, I do know that you were in Australia somewhat recently. Now, this could be your answer to the next question. As an Australian, I have a bit of bias, so I'm kind of thinking it could be. But do you have a favorite holiday destination? And if so, where is it?
Some people that may know me might think New Zealand because I used to live there.
Okay.
It's absolutely stunning. Australia is beautiful as well, but it's actually Hawaii.
Okay, all right. That actually
Big Island specifically.
Yeah, okay. But I'll let you slide with that one.
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you have a favorite thing to do outside of football? Maybe this could be even tied into your job.
I really like to travel. So I studied international business in college, primarily because I find it fascinating to understand the different cultures and how people interact and sort of what makes people tick in that regard. And bringing that to the business side, obviously in soccer, there's players from all nationalities. And it's really, really fun to just get to know people that didn't come from, you know, your walk of life. And it's really good to get that perspective. So I think traveling in general is something that I probably enjoy the most when I have the time to.
Traveling is a amazing thing to do. I'm lucky enough to have done a lot of traveling for my age, and also considering that I've been playing football consistently during this time, I've been traveling for football. And I think that compared to a lot of other kids my age, I'd say that seeing those different perspectives definitely changes you and makes you think about things in a different way. And I think it's a very, very, very good thing for people.
It does give you a new perspective as well. I mean, I traveled on my own at 14 to Denmark to visit my cousin.
Yeah.
And I just remember getting off the plane in Amsterdam and drinking what I thought was orange juice. And to them it was. And to me, it was some of the nastiest juice I've ever had. But that's because in the States, we put a ton of sugar in everything. So yeah. It was at that point I was like, yep, not in America anymore. But it was just that, you know, that little thing that you looked forward to. And it was like, oh, got to find something else. So it kind of slapped me in the face, if you will. That's just, you know, that's part of traveling, is experiencing different things.
Yeah, 100%. Now, do you have a most used app? And if so, what is it?
Instagram, for sure. Definitely. But I really enjoy it, right? Like I make a ton of behind the scenes. I just started doing that a little bit ago. But yeah, definitely Instagram. But TikTok's a close second. Just to you know, break up the day and get a good laugh in or two. So yeah, Instagram wins for sure.
I think Instagram, like, that's been a common answer for most people. Instagram is definitely it's a very well designed app because it keeps you on it.
Yeah, there's some psychology behind why that is, and that's part of what I do in my real job. So, but it is a very widely used app by very diverse demographic, all ages, all backgrounds. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a good job. They did a good job. Now,
They don't change it much, so it's easy to keep up with.
yeah, that is true. That is true. What is one thing that you want to complete on your bucket list, if you have one?
Skydiving.
Okay, that's the one I'm hoping for.
I would sit on the edge of the plane, and I love flying, but I would sit on the edge of the plane. You'd have to push me, right? Like, obviously, I'd be, go on a tandem where some instructor is like tied to you. I would sit on the edge. I wouldn't actually willingly like go. You'd have to like somehow have a friend behind me that just like pushed me out, but I would do it, and I would probably love it. So, and my dad was in the Navy and was a parachute rigger, which he made all of the chutes for the sailors. He would pack them. So when you pack it, you have to obviously jump with the chutes that you've packed. So he did hundreds and hundreds of jumps, and he always told me, "You got to do it." And I was like, "Yeah." So my dad's still here, so maybe one day he'll tell me to go out, and he'll just take me to an airport, and we'll go skydiving.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah. That's a really crazy job actually to do, because similar to reffing, I think, can't really stuff up, because I mean, maybe he's a bit more extreme than reffing. I think you have a bit of lenience. His job, his job,
it right.
Yeah. Very interesting job. Never heard of anyone who's actually had that before.
Yeah,
very cool. Very cool.
He has so many stories too. So,
yeah, awesome. Now, do you have a favorite game that you've reffed in?
Favorite game that I've reffed. So one that I'm going to give you two, because I can't really pick one. They both are equal. So the All-Star game in 2019 for MLS was just, it was a spectacle. Obviously for the players, but for the referees, I don't think many people appreciate. It's a lot of fun. We do this job because we love it, but there are moments and opportunities that you get to really just kind of roll up your sleeves and enjoy it. Obviously making sure the players are safe regardless, but it's a different atmosphere than a league game where points matter, and obviously the players are still competing, and you get to see players from different part of the world. The other one would be the Madrid derby, like the Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. I almost lost the names. That game was a friendly in, I believe, also 2019.
Yeah, I think I've seen that game.
Yeah, it was here in Jersey. It was up in Meadowlands, where the World Cup final is actually supposed to be, so MetLife. And oh my gosh, it was phenomenal. Ted Uncle, who's also an MLS referee, CJ Morgante, who's now retired, former World Cup tournament assistant referee, and a local fourth official from Jersey. I just remember his eyes got real big at a mess, like players kicked together, of course. And I just remember looking over at him, and his eyes got real big, and I was like, "Let's go, it's time to work." And he finally just like got out of that zone, because it's just one of those things. But those two games stand out. It's just memorable games. And I think for the All-Star game, it was also the people you work with. Obviously in the workplace, you want to enjoy what you do, but it's the people that really make the difference. And it's also true about refereeing. We all have different personalities, different backgrounds, but as an assistant, you kind of make sure that you're in the background and that you assist and make sure the referee has everything they need. But Drew Fisher was the referee for that, and it was just a ton of fun. And over the years, we've grown closer as friends, but we always look back on that game, and he got to meet my parents, which was cool. So you just really get to know somebody a little bit more, and it was awesome.
Yeah, amazing experience. And I think that, it would be even crazier to be in the moment, because that's surreal. It'd be very surreal.
Yeah,
it
is. It is, because you get the assignment and you're like, wow, this is really cool. And obviously you build up the anticipation. You get there, you have a police escort to the stadium and everything. And you get there and you can hear the fans in the locker room. So you really don't get that mental break to just reset. You just have to learn how to deal with it. And that's part of like the mental fortitude that you have built with experience. As I said earlier, the fourth official's eyes got really big in the Real Madrid Atletico Madrid game, only because those moments don't come often, and it's just, you don't expect that to happen. But then it's just someone reminding you in your ear or telling you like, hey, let's go. And you kind of snap out of it. and you get to work and you deal with it. So it's just all in a day's work, I guess.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, this could be a little bit off script here, but I don't mind it. But I wanna ask you a question, which is something that in the current league that I'm playing in, they've just kind of introduced it, and I'll go into this a little bit more in the episode for you, because it's a crazy system that now has been implemented in my league, and it's a unique system only in this part of Australia that they've implemented. But the initial question that I wanted to ask was, when it comes to the performance of a referee and how they judge that, how do they actually judge the performance of a referee game in, game out, and then find the best referee to ref in such a big game? Is it Excel spreadsheets? Like, is it they literally just have everyone's performance in terms of, because also it could be subjective, a performance as well. So how do they actually make that analysis to then find the best referee to ref those games?
Fair question. It's different depending on where you are in the world. It's different on the competition. I'll tell you what I know is, I'll start at MLS. There's the assignments are made, obviously at this point, the general manager or the CEO really is Mark Geiger, former World Cup referee. On his staff is Alan Kelly, who comes from Ireland, and was a UEFA referee, did some Champions League matches, had a FIFA badge. Fantastic referee. I've got to work with him. So he's got, I think I said Joe Fletcher as well, who's Canadian, and one of his assistants. He is surrounded by Sandro Ricci from Brazil now, another World Cup referee. So he has a great staff to identify talent, right, and to judge the performances. But it really just depends on the league. You can't see the same team twice for obvious reasons back to back. They try to make sure that you're seeing different teams as much as you can. There's also, from a referee point of view, right? I'm an assistant, but as a referee, you're interacting with players. So they look at personalities. They look at that dynamic, who's going to be the best referee for that game. Some referees are just better at people managing than others, and the game demands that type of kind of trait of the person. So they find the best person. And CONCACAF, I would say it's very similar as well. Obviously, geopolitics comes into play. If there's some political issues in the world, has nothing to do with your ability. Sometimes, unfortunately, that can rule you out. From a FIFA perspective, as well, very similar to CONCACAF and the fact of the geopolitical side, they really do look at personalities because you're different cultures, obviously experience. So they look at a bunch of different things. But something you said before kind of made me laugh. But Excel spreadsheets, yeah, they use them.
They actually do.
They do, yeah. I mean, again, it depends on the league, but they have systems as well that they manage the referees. CONCACAF has one system. U.S. Soccer has something different. MLS has something different. FIFA has something different. In FIFA, you get an email with an appointment letter. There's not a website that we go to check or anything. It's literally an email that you've been assigned to a certain match.
Okay, well, if anyone's listening who is good at creating fake emails, don't create a fake email and send it to Logan, because that would be bad. Although, surely there's some way to make sure that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. There's some security in place where it's an official notice that has signatures from either the general secretary, sometimes the FIFA president himself. Not usual though. But it just depends, and it has to go through your federation. Okay, it's U.S. Soccer. Football Australia would have to approve the appointment, and is also on that. So there's some checks and balances.
Good, that is good. All right, brilliant. Now, going into how you prepare for a game. Now, you did mention how the example of one of your fellow referees who was out of it in all. I wonder what his preparation was like. Maybe it was good preparation, but in the moment he failed to succumb to the event. But what does preparation look like as a ref?
Good question. So it starts weeks before. When you get the appointment, you're training. So going through and making sure that you're actually training and doing it the right way. I think one of the biggest things, I just made a video on this the other day, you have to find a way to self-motivate yourself. There's no one there to do it for you, obviously, but no one's there to motivate you, more importantly. So you need to find a way that you find the joy in the little things and working out. Obviously, you're going to have tough days, but that's the mental fortitude side of it. So working out is the first step. And then when you travel, making sure that, that when you arrive in the city, that, you're not eating, different types of foods that you're probably not used to, you stick to what you know. And then after the game, you might venture out a little bit. But then during the game, I think it's just managing your nerves. I think with experience, you learn how to do that better, of course. The other thing for me is I'm not very superstitious. And some people in the referee world think that's a little odd because most of them are actually.
Really?
And that's on them, right? That's their thing and that's what they do and it works for them. Totally fine. But I've learned from the superstition side, there's a lot of things you can't control. So if you don't get to do your certain thing or whatever it is that you're superstitious about, you've almost like self-imposed that type of mental challenge for absolutely no reason. So for me, I don't have to do something. If I get to do it, great. But it's not something that if I don't do it, it like ruins my day or my game. Some people have to get to the field and kick the ball around, or, they listen to certain music in the locker room, or in fact, most people are not going to see. Some people bring pictures of their families and they lay them out in their little locker space, or they create this little area that's just for them. Stuffed animals I've even seen. And for me, it's cute, right? I smile and I'm like, that's adorable. Maybe it's their son or their daughter. But those little superstitions I can understand. But for me, I'm just like, I just go with the flow. And that's just, I think, my personality too. So that's how you prepare for a game. And then when you walk out, crowds yelling and it's just noise. And then once the whistle blows to start the game, you just settle in and you just do your job. You want to perform and do the best that you can. And you almost forget there's a stadium around you with people screaming at times because you're just so focused. But that's how I would say that I prepare.
Yeah. It's really interesting to hear that. I think most people, even as a footballer, when I'm on the field and I think about the refs that are reffing the game. Now, I would like to think that I'm very fair with the refs. I've never got a yellow card in my career. I don't think I've ever screamed at a ref, so I try to be as fair as possible. Just so you know, because don't think I'm a bad player. But it's interesting to think about how. Okay, I'm a player. I've prepared for my game. I'm not the only person on the pitch who's done that. There's going to be footballers who have done that, but I don't even think about the refs who have done that. So it's really interesting to hear your preparation. But the thing that I'm thinking of is the skills, the mental preparation that we do as footballers. It could be visualization. It could be writing down our goals for the game. It could be a warm-up that's specific to how we want to do it. What does that look like for you? Do you visualize? Do you go through opposite? Like, no, it wouldn't be opposition. Would you be going through previous game clips of these teams to find out who's the most, offside player or something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So throughout the season, watching games that aren't even yours, it might be that I, friends with the referee and I just want to see how they do. We actually watch each other's games and we don't criticize each other. We're very factual. We learn from our mistakes, of course. And there's things that people text after a game that I didn't even remember happened. But yeah, so during the warm-up, I have a specific warm-up that I do. But again, as an assistant, the referee might want to take you through a very specific warm-up. I'll use the example. So Armando Villarreal, who's the referee I work with in CONCACAF and internationally, I work with in MLS, of course, but he has a very specific warm-up that he does. And I don't mess with that. But part of that is the first 3 minutes we run, and then we do some dynamic stretching for another few minutes, and then he lets us go and do our thing, which, thank you, Mondo. I appreciate that. But that's our 5 minutes together as a team. And for him, that's important. So you just do it. There are some referees that want you to warm up with them the entire time. My favorite story is Kevin Stott. He's a legend, one of the best referees I've ever seen, and is still a VAR to this day. I just remember being the new kid on the block, like 24, 25, having absolutely just eyes wide open in the first few games. And I remember working with him for the first time, and people warned me about his warm up because it's intense, right? And I'm like, 24, 25, I can do this. And they must not be fit, right? Wrong. We get in the warm up, and he is doing an HIT, what felt like an HIT run for like 3 minutes up and down the sideline. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's not even, it doesn't even look like it's phasing him. And I'm sitting there like huffing and puffing almost. And now I'm thinking, am I out of shape? What's happening here? So, you go through different warm-ups and you prepare. You know the player's behavior. You know who your troublemakers are on the field, the people that really get into those challenges and they don't back down, that you have to deal with in a certain way. But again, as I said before, it's all about personality. So some players want to be spoken to a little bit more than others. And you're there to make the game fair. So as a referee, you almost have to have 22 personalities when you're dealing with situations, because you're being authentic, but you're maximizing the result of whatever you're dealing with for the game. So if that just means like a stern look versus, going back at a player with some words professionally, might get you more than in other cases. So you just have to really read the game and understand. But there are some players that you're going to have a more challenging game to deal with. Coaches as well, technical staff, and sometimes the field. Sometimes the field is not great. So you just have to deal with it and learn, maybe you take a few different runs down the touchline to figure out where the hole in the ground is or the divot, just like players do. So I would say that's pretty important as well.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear. I mean, it's interesting to even hear that, those small things such as a divot in the pitch is going to make your day a little bit harder, because on the football field, as a player, it's the worst thing. So,
yes,
yeah,
it happens.
It does. And also, those are the things that we can't control, which is what you were talking about there, which is why I think also I agree with you with the superstitions part. When you focus on the things that you essentially can't control sometimes, then you're setting yourself up for an even harder time to actually get over that hurdle that you've set yourself. It doesn't need to be there in the first place. So, definitely focusing on things you can control is a very important thing. Yeah. Going into the rule that I have in my league currently at the moment, this may come as a shock, because it's like, you've probably never heard this. Actually, maybe you have heard it implemented, but I have never heard of it implemented in any other league. And I'll give you context behind why it's implemented first. So in this part of New South Wales, which is like the state,
right,
they have had a lot of refs quit because of the verbal assault they get. I guess that's probably not the best way to explain it, but you know what I mean, the dissent, I think.
I think that's a good way to explain it, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, and in Australia, maybe it's not as bad as it is in the US, but I'm making assumptions as well. But in Australia, I think it's pretty bad because Australians can be quite blunt, let's just say that. And in this part of my state, it's much more blunt because that's just what the culture's like. So what the federation, the local federation, had to do in response to a lot of referees dropping out is, one, they don't have enough refs to actually ref the whole league, which means that the players are going to suffer. So what they did is they made a zero tolerance rule. So any dissent is a red card, a 3-match ban, and -3 points in the league to that team.
Wow.
So if they then repeat that, so those -3 points are held up in like no man's land, essentially. So it doesn't take -3 points away from them yet until they get a repeat offender, and then that takes away -6. So only once you get it twice does that take away the points from you. You can have it once, but you can't do it again. So it's very, very strict rules. I don't have a problem with it because, again, I'm not the type of person to go and scream at a ref.
Yeah.
But it's very common for my players to do that. What do you think of that type of rule? Have you heard that implemented before? Is it common?
I haven't heard that specific rule.
Okay.
So I think there's different ways to tackle the issue. The one thing I've always thought was very interesting as a player, I can't say I was the best person talking to a referee, but I look at rugby, for example, not AFL, rugby. But it's a gentleman's sport in terms of how they respect the referee. if you've ever seen a game, it's just as intense. It's just as subjective sometimes. But when the referee blows the whistle in a rugby game, you would absolutely be astounded if one of them went at a referee the way a soccer player or coach would. It would be so out of place. And that's the culture they've created, is they've always had that zero tolerance. I get there's passion. I'm not against that at all. But I think there's a way that we have to channel that to understand that the referee is a human, number one, and they're making a decision based on their observations. You screaming at them is not going to change that decision. And I know players know that, but in the moment, of course, you have a reaction. That's normal. But when it rises to the level of dissent, that's when it's obviously a problem. And when it happens in the professional game, and I mean this wholeheartedly, as a kid, I watched that too. And I'm like, oh, well, they're doing it. It's probably okay for me. And it's obviously not. So we really have to tackle the issue at a professional international level. I think FIFA recognizes this. Obviously, CONCACAF as well wants to stamp this out of the game. You've seen in the Premier League, when 3 or more players surround the referee, there can be fines and punishment. Yeah. So it doesn't seem to be completely fixing it. I think it's heading in the right direction, but I don't think any solution is going to fix it in the short term. I think it's going to take a consistent approach from the top leagues in the world to really stamp this out of the game. And it's going to take some time, but I think we can do it. It just needs to be reinforced.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that because it was let slide for so long, he created that culture that it's acceptable and it's not really punished. Therefore, the incentive to keep on doing it, there's no resistance. Although, I would still argue there is also no reason to do that, because you're not going to change the ref's mind. I mean, that's just a whole nother topic itself. Like, you can't actually change the ref's mind. That's always been my rationale behind it, because you're never going to see a ref go like, oh, okay, corner, and then one player's like, oh, but my guy touched it. And even if he did touch it, the ref's already made the decision. You can't go, yeah, sorry guys, we'll just go for a goal kick. It doesn't happen. So those types of things, there's no real need to actually argue a decision. Just deal with it, because again, that's also something you can't control. Although I think that footballers would like to think they can control the referee sometimes. Yeah, it doesn't really work, and that's the big thing there. And it makes it difficult, because also it means that you are scrutinized more than any other player or any other person on the field, in my opinion. So when we were talking about that, when it comes to positions, where do you see the most resistance from players? Because I think that in your job as an assistant, you would probably get the most resistance from, let's say, an opposing striker. You're telling him offside or something like that, or possibly a defender. I guess it's whoever you're closest to. I would like to think, because I'm a goalkeeper, and goalkeepers give you a nice time, but I also have seen some goalkeepers who literally just pick on the assistant ref because they're the closest ref to them. Yeah. So where do you see the most resistance typically from?
Defenders. Because as an assistant, I'm always with the second to last defender, so I'm around them more. Both when they're defending and making a challenge for the ball, or maybe an offside decision. You kind of get it all. I mean, attackers and strikers too. And also, funny enough, well, not funny, but interestingly enough, as AR1, or the senior assistant on the bench side, with the bench behind you, sometimes the technical staff can be quite involved. Every touchline is different too, right? Every stadium has different spots for the technical area that's defined and drawn out according to the laws of the game. Some of them are very close to each other. Some of them are farther apart. Again, just depends on the stadium. So that in and of itself can introduce, not just on the field, but you can have running up and down the line, and sometimes the play's on the other end and you're standing. Sometimes the coach can walk up behind you if they're close enough and ask a question, or maybe they have some feelings they want to get out. And I'd rather have them do that in my direction, so the referee can focus, because I can, I might not have an immediate decision to make. Obviously, I'm still focused on the game, but so technical area is something I think most people are not aware of. I would just say, when you watch some games coming up, just notice how close some of the technical areas are to not just the touchline, but to each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, I've been on a team where I've had the coaches who are very aggressive to refs. Can't condone it, but it makes me think about the reaction that you then have as the assistant. So, for example, the coaches that I would be with, they would always speak to assistant because they're close. But when it comes to speaking to the assistant, one, how do you do it in a actually effective way? Because you can do it in a polite way and it be ineffective, and you can also do it in a very aggressive way and most likely be ineffective. And additionally, when it comes to that, what say does an assistant referee actually have to the overall game from coach's feedback?
Yeah. So the first question is asking it from the coach to the assistant referee. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's timing. To me, it's timing. If I'm actively making a decision and I have to be laser focused, offside is, sometimes millimeters matter. You have to, you're tuning it out. So sometimes I don't even hear it. But it's also timing as well. If I'm sometimes they don't know I'm communicating with the referee through the mic. So, and I might need to hear as well. So I can't talk and hear and do all three things at once, even though people think we can. And we, trust me, if we could, we would love to do that. So timing is the answer to that. But it's the tone in which it's a professional environment, thankfully, but sometimes it doesn't remain that way. So I just remind coaches that get a little bit too passionate. It happens. They're people. I just say, Coach, I'm right here. You don't have to yell. I can hear you. And it's you don't want to add fire to the already flaming inferno sometimes. You just being calm and just looking at them, or just people who know me know that I can give some look. If you've ever seen Schitt's Creek with David Rose, some people think that I'm his twin. So I just could give people looks like, what do you want me to do? Or I just look over and I'm like, it's body language too. So you just have to find a way. Some coaches are different players. Influence on the referee in terms of what the assistant coach says to us. There are times where they'll say something that makes you think, or if the coach is pretty quiet for the most part and then is speaking up at certain times, usually when they speak up, they're probably right or they're on to something. So I always acknowledge what they say. I'm like, I hear you and thank you. I'll let the referee know, and you just do with that what you will. Sometimes it's the fourth official they tell, but they just want to be heard and they want to feel like you're doing something about it. And we do too, right? It's going to help the game. We're going to do it. But it's an input to our game management. And sometimes it's valuable and sometimes it's just useful, but not valuable in the moment. So it's just that's how I would look at what coaches say to us.
Yeah. Okay. And when it comes to the frequency of which a coach comes up to you, when they are being aggressive and they are being rude to you and non-stop, and it may not even be about the things you're doing. I think that, they may be hypersensitive to it, so that if you call their next play offside and it was offside, they're still going to go off at you. They're not going to really admit that you were right. I see that a lot. But do you have the ability to say to the center ref or even yourself to say, no, this is enough, you need to stop? Possibly they get a yellow card, a red card. How does that work? Are you able to speak to your ref and say, this coach has been on me, watch the next play, he'll probably do it again? Do you have that influence?
I do. I usually the fourth official is very effective. Most people don't see the fourth official a lot because they're doing a lot of things off camera. That's probably one of the biggest things, is they help us manage the coaches. They take a lot of heat. I don't want to say they're a punching bag, but they take a lot of things thrown at them, including, some emotional responses from coaches or some questions. And as we see sometimes, they cross the line. But when they come up to us, it's just about making sure that, it's obviously not public. Something we look at for dissent is, are you using a bunch of your hands? Are you drawing attention to yourself and creating a scene? I'm smiling because it's sort of, it's not very professional behavior. So we just remind them of that sometimes, but it actually starts before the game. If you're new to the team, you haven't seen the team, you just watch during warm-ups, you watch the players, you watch the technical staff. You can see those technical staff or those trainers that are just on them. You know what you're up against. So you are formulating how you're going to respond to that. Sometimes the people before you that have done those games will tell you as a heads up, hey, they've had a really difficult time. And also in the professional world, they're in the media a lot. So something that I find very valuable is, again, they're people. If you know something has happened in their life, like a major life event, they've had a child. Unfortunately, sometimes maybe there's an illness that they're dealing with, an immediate family member. Sometimes somebody may have passed away or they're coming back from an injury. There's a bunch of things that influence someone's behavior. And if you know that's what's going on and you can create that sort of connection on a professional level, it makes them feel seen and it makes you look like you care, because we do. And I want them to understand that, like, I get it. You're going through a lot. It doesn't excuse the behavior, though. So let's find a way to redirect that. And so I think that's probably the one thing most people don't know is we do read up on a lot of things off the field too, because it does play a factor in their behavior, both coaches and players.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough for you because additionally, I assume that, you only get paid for your games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then that means that all of the extra preparation you do, all of the accountability that you must have to make sure that you're even able to play those games is off the clock, essentially. So it's all dependent on what you do to prepare, how you are as a person, and then lastly, how you actually perform as a rep. So it's very tough for you there. Now, when it comes to reflection on a game, what does that reflection look like? Actually, wait. I intended to ask you a question before that just came to my mind, and it was that when it comes to the preparation process, and then also doing the research on the players, what's happening in their life, etc. I know that a lot of center refs learn the names of the players so that they can be more personable. Do you also learn the names of the players?
I try so hard. I am a face person. I know it. I know you because I've seen you, but there are times where I just don't remember the name.
Yeah.
And I try to get better at that. The one person that stands out to me, and this is so cool, Alan Chapman. So Alan Chapman used to be a professional player as well, but every time we go into a game, I'm like, he knows not just the 22 players, he knows the staff, he knows the subs, he probably knows the people working at the stadium. I mean, it's like every time he says hello to someone, it's not just hi, it's hi so-and-so. And I'm sitting there like, how do you remember all these names? And I still don't know the secret. He hasn't shared it. So if he does, I'll come back to you with it. But
yeah,
he's one of the best at that. And there's a few others too, but he's the first one.
Yeah, I really like it. I've had it with a few refs. Probably when I was pretty young, to be fair. And I'm thinking, what did he say to me? He said my name, and I was so confused. And I'm like, I like this guy. I don't know why, but I like him.
The VAR actually helps as well, or the AVAR, the assistant referee.
Yeah.
During the game, the ball there might have been a challenge, and you want to come back and talk to the player, but the game is still going on. So as the referee's running, literally they're like, what's 22's number? Or sorry, what's 22's name? And an awkward pause or something, and then you can maybe hear the sheet flipping or something, and you say maybe one of us know it on the crew. You hear the name in the microphone, and that's actually sometimes how they get it. So they don't always know it, but they just we get printouts of the game before, as if you're in the VOR or the VAR, so you can easily find out who it is.
Yeah, awesome. That's a good one. I like that personalization, but also it's a level of intimacy that I think garners respect. And we had the head of referees from my association, local association, come to our club specifically. He was going to go to all clubs, but we were the first one who took him up on that. A lot of clubs apparently said no. And he said, one thing that I encourage you to do is just learn the refs' names, because they'll probably know yours. And a sign of respect back is learn their names.
That's really important, actually. I think that's something I'll take away from this. I never thought of that. they know the middle or the center official, the referee, because they're interacting with them more. They see them more. They usually don't know our names, and I kind of chuckle every time because they'll say, hello, good to see you, and then they'll come up to the other assistant. And then when they get to, again, I'll just use Alan or something, or Armando, like, hey, Armando, great to see you. It's like, yeah, cool. They still don't know me. The life of an assistant referee strikes again, you know? But it's just our little world we live in, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a little bit awkward because you're probably there as frequently, but I guess the relationship maybe with that center ref.
Yeah. I take it as a good thing, I guess, because, you know, the old mantra goes, the best referees are neither seen nor heard. So I'm just telling myself that to probably make me feel better, but you know, a little punch to the gut, but I don't hold it against them. They don't learn my name because I'm myself pretty bad with remembering names. So
yeah. All right, going into the question that I was going to ask you before, which is reflection on a game. Now, I don't know how your performance is scored. Maybe you also don't know how your performance is scored when it is reasonably subjective. Do you watch your games back? Do you watch your decisions back? Do you think, how can I improve? Like, what does that process look like for yourself?
I do. That we have access to different platforms, again, different leagues, different confederations. Some are easier to get than others. And but I do always watch my matches. I go back and I learn. In the game, I've remembered some times, or in the locker room after the game, I'll write down the time so I don't forget. But I go back and I look at it objectively. I'll even send it off to a few people within the referee group who I know will give me an honest opinion. Those are the most important people. You don't want to be surrounded by yes friends, as I call them. Those don't do much good for you. And we all have that same mindset. At this level, we all want to be the best that we can be. We're highly visible, so our mistakes are glorified. So we obviously want to minimize those. Yeah. But they're going to happen, and so you just do the best that you can to learn from it. Some referees, you know, if you've had a difficult game, and so they, myself included, it might take a day or two, but rewatching it is part of the learning experience. Sending a clip off to get a second opinion. You know, for an assistant, it's offside mostly. That's your primary responsibility. Yeah. Maybe you've assisted with a foul or a penalty or something that's not usual, but it happens. So you're trying to see, you know, did the referee have a good position? How is my communication in MLS? We have access to our, you know, just for your game, you can hear the audio. So that's the biggest sort of learning experience is coming into the league. You don't have that. So you don't know what communication should look like. So that is the steepest learning curve, is going from, you know, second division to top flight, like A-League. And you've got every referee over there has probably been there for a while, mostly. And there's an expectation of how to communicate. And you don't know because you've never been given feedback, because you've never had access to it. So it's a lot of nuances with that, you know, the timing of when to talk, what you say, how you say it. All those things make a big difference in really game critical situation.
Yeah, it's crazy to again hear the perspective from a ref, because I'll be the first person to admit my ignorance here when I think about when I go home and I do my analysis and I'm thinking, yeah, maybe some of my players are doing it, my coach is probably doing it, and then I'm thinking, that's it. No, there's a lot of other people who are doing it. And additionally, the guys who actually have to score you, they're also doing it. And they're doing it to a very, very specific criteria, which is, again, even out of, you know, what most people think of. It's crazy to think about that.
Yeah, and that I certainly didn't intentionally side skirt your question about how we're scored. Every league is different. MLS has a certain ranking or a score from CONCACAF, from FIFA. Everyone does it different. There's different priorities for the league, especially for certain initiatives like dissent that weighs more heavily than in some other leagues. So it just depends. And sometimes you find out your score, sometimes you don't. I think the best way to know if you've done okay is if you keep getting assignments. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing. But again, the learning still doesn't stop. You know, the score doesn't dictate how I look and reflect on a game. It's an opinion. And does opinions matter? But you know if you did a good job or not. You do. You can't lie to yourself.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, being aware of the time, Logan, I want to quickly finish off with the last question that we give for all of our guests, which is, what are the 3 ways that you sculpt yourself every single day?
3 ways I sculpt myself. Positive mindset. Very different than toxic optimism, by the way. You have to be real. Tenacity. So I always make sure that I pursue everything to the best of my abilities. And I would also say being guided by purpose. So something in the professional world is that at Ernst & Young, they have a really awesome master course about Pathway to Purpose. It's a multi course program where you basically define your own purpose statement. And it's really impactful to reflect on, both from a professional and from a soccer point of view, you know, what gets you up in the morning. So I would say it's those 3 things.
Yeah, awesome. And what would you say specifically goes into, you mentioned the positive mindset as such, but also the realistic perspective. What does that mean for you? Is it writing down, reflecting, thinking about your thoughts, things like that? Or is it something else?
I enjoy reading. Recently, I'm not a big reader, but I really enjoy sort of the self-development, self-help, if you will. How to reframe a question, or how to rethink something through, because maybe you don't have all the perspective. So books from Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, Mark Manson, who wrote one of the best books. It's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Rest. But one of the most impactful books. Super easy read as well, but there's a lot of life lessons that he takes. And I think that's really helped me take a step back and really examine, you know, maybe I'm not looking at it the best way possible, or maybe I have a very narrow view of something. If I opened myself up a bit more, I might understand why something happened. So yeah, constantly learning as well. You know, I'm not perfect.
Amazing. I love that self-awareness. That's definitely a very important thing to have. And I think, and this is maybe a bit of tunnel vision here, but I think that footballers and anyone in the football world has, or is forced to have, a high level of self-awareness, because 1, it's the biggest sport in the world, making it the most competitive, and 2, a lot of people are up for scrutiny in anything that they do. So to actually have that self-awareness to reflect is sometimes actually forced upon an individual, which makes it, I think, overall a very positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this earlier. Opening yourself up to different experiences, traveling, you know, having different life experience only broadens your perspective. Yeah. You don't have to, I'm not saying you have to travel to all corners of the world, right? Some people don't have the means to do that. And I totally understand, but we all have access to, well, most people do.
Yeah.
And different resources, right? Public library. There's ways to educate yourself and really make sure that you bring and form the best version of yourself, because we are constantly learning. And I always say the day you stop learning is the day you should probably stop doing what you're doing. Because that's really a sign of caring, is that you want to get better.
Yeah. 100%. Well, Logan, I really do appreciate your time. It was an awesome episode. And yeah, I can't wait to get this out, because truly, this perspective is exactly what we just spoke about just then, finishing it off, is seeing it from a different perspective, because I don't think many players or many people even take into consideration the referee's perspective. I think, no offense, but I think some people can also think about the referee not even being they're almost like a robot sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I think that of a referee. I'd like to think that I value you as much as I value the next person, but I think that some people may distance that awareness a little bit. But yeah, it was amazing to speak with you, Logan, and I really do appreciate your time.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to send you a photo. I have refereed in Australia.